This is Fantasy Football Picks and Bets presented by Prize Picks on the Mayo Media Network. 2021 Week 6 Thursday Night Football. Bucks at Eagles. DraftKings picks, bets, props, and Prize Picks. If you missed any of the shows on Mayo Media Network, specifically on Fantasy Football Picks and Bets, what are you doing? I know I'm here filling in from Griffin Swanson, but just released Lauren Carpenter's best streams of the week, the dumpster diving deep plays you need to do. Laquan and Scott Simpson have the best starts and the best sits of the week. Pete's Overzet's DraftKings breakdown, first look, and research is already up now. And on Thursday evening, two of the best there is to do it. Like, people tune into my DraftKings show. It's me and Leone on the Pat Mayo Experience on Thursday. Good show, fun show. Leone's great. And then I ask him stupid questions and we have some fun. But on Thursday evening, a show gets released on this feed, sub to it, by the way, with JT Hayes and Tyler Tambolini from Run Pure Sports. And they actually crush NFL and play high volume in DraftKings. Put it that way. It's not like me. These guys are playing like my mortgage on DraftKings every single week. Probably more, to tell you the truth. So you probably want to tune in to see what they have to say as well. And you can find all of that both on Mayo Media Network for the video version and on the Fantasy Football Picks and Bets audio feed. Find that down in the description. Okay, let's talk about the injuries for this game right now, because it's kind of telling when we look at what's going on here. Initially, Tom Brady had been banged up. He was spotted Tuesday with a wrap on his thumb. He practiced in full on Wednesday, so just expect him to be fine. When I did my rankings show this week with Seeley, we kind of talked it through, and he was like, Pat, you don't need to worry about this, so I'm not going to worry about it, okay? But the guys that are out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there's no Rob Gronkowski, so we'll get another Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard mess, which we won't be able to predict correct. And frankly, both of them will probably be terrible because that's just what happens. Levante David and Antoine Winfield are both out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. So this depleted secondary gets more depleted, losing their top safety. And Levante David and his ability to cover horizontally on the field and get the running backs out of the backfield, his speed to match up with tight ends, I mean, it's going to be a problem out there. If Jalen Hurts can make the throws, it's going to be a real problem. Gio Bernard's going to play. Antonio Brown's going to play. Chris Godwin popped up on Tuesday on the injury report with a knee and or ankle injury. He was a full participant on Wednesday, but the numbers just haven't been there for Godwin outside of like week 1. So he'll be the lowest owned, I'd wager, of the Buccaneers receivers. I don't necessarily mean when we run the sims on this and try to find optimal lines. We'll see if Godwin pops up in it. How about that? On the Eagles side of the ball, Dallas Goedert's on the COVID list. He ain't playing. Zach Ertz is starting. And Lane Johnson, for personal reasons, will not be on the offensive line. So it's, you're down one of your main focal points of your passing game and one of the guys who's the best at blocking for you. So expect to see a lot of Jalen Hurts just running around in the backfield. So those are the main injuries from this game. Jason Kelce will be playing in this contest for the Eagles, so that's good. And most of their offensive line is back right now. And when we get into the projections for this game, and when we do run the sims, I'm going to customize it to what I think is going to happen in this game, because I think that tools, I mean, you can take the baseline optimization. That's probably better than what I'm going to do, to be perfectly honest with you, but I like to tell myself the story of the game and then run that. So if I'm right on the game, my DraftKings plays will reflect that. But first, I want to talk about Prize Picks, and you can go to prizepicks.com right now. And if you use the code MMNNFL, that's a new code for new depositors. If you use that right now, you get a free $25 if Tom Brady completes a pass in this game. So, and you also get the $100 match deposit. So the best way to kind of rig this, so you come out with maximum amount of money, is deposit $100 at prizepicks.com with code MMNNFL. That's easy stuff. You can find all this in the description too. The link brings you right there. And then deposit $100. That means you'll get a match of $100. So you got a free $100 just for depositing $100. So now you have $200. And then play a $25 entry on the Thursday night contest. I'll fill one out for you right now. And if Tom Brady completes a pass, Tom Brady doesn't even need to be in this lineup. As long as he completes a pass, you're a new player and you have a Thursday night football lineup on prizepicks.com, you'll just get $25. You might as well make the $25 entry, and then boom. The worst you could be sitting there is depositing $100 and having $200. Best case scenario, you win 3 times your money and then you deposit $100 and then all of a sudden you have $300. So I would highly recommend you take advantage of this. Taking advantage of these sites and the promos that they're giving away is like the most free money that you're ever going to get. So you might as well try to make that money work for you. So let's jump over to prizepicks.com right now and see what we can find in terms of best plays. The one that I really liked when I was doing my research. So for Prize Picks, you need, if you're going to play Thursday Night Football, you can play the quote unquote like same game one. So up to 5 guys in the same game if you want to, but you can't double up on the same player, and you have to have at least one player from each team in any contest that you're going into. So I went with receptions in this game. So I'm scrolling down. Where are we at here? Oh, Quez Watkins. Yeah, he's actually seen an uptick right now in terms of routes run and snap share versus Jalen Reagor. Here's the issue, though. Quez Watkins doesn't have more than 3 catches in any game so far this season. And even though there is a beat-up secondary, the offensive line, will it be able to hold up for Jalen Hurts in this contest? I'm not necessarily sure about that. And even with the uptick in snap share, Quez Watkins is just seeing such a low ADOT. And if you're going to take advantage of this Buccaneers secondary, you're going to go deep down the field. That leans old Devonta Smith. That leans Jalen Reagor. Quez Watkins, don't know about that one. I like the under on Quez Watkins' 3 receptions. So, I mean, I need to, at least see what everything is telling me on this. So I go to runthesims.com, and you can do this too. Runthesims.com/Mayo if you want a discount. And it's my favorite thing to do with any player prop that pops up. And it's been especially great for Prize Picks so far. So we'll type in Quez Watkins. And the betting line is 3 receptions. And if we just put the juice down to even money, which it would be on Prize Picks, you're not paying vig on either side of this, although you have to play at least 2 picks and 1 from each team. So we'll try to find someone from Tampa here in a second and see how this goes for us. All right, let's see. Over under 3 receptions. Actual odds, 60%. Okay. Not bad. For the under, it comes out as a push a lot of the time. The median projection is 2. So over 3 receptions hits around 20% of the time. Under 3 reception hits about 61% of the time, and then it's a push the rest of the time. So even if you end up, you can push on your Prize Picks entry, and then if you just get the other side correct, you're still going to win. You won't win 3 times. You'll get beat down just a little bit, but you'll still end up being a winner. Now, if you take this in the MMN Prize Picks props pool and it's a push, it's a loss because you have to get all 5 correct. And technically, you wouldn't get it correct. A loss is the same as a tie as it pertains to our contests that we're running, but that's tracked on a spreadsheet. That's not what's actually going on at Prize Picks. So I really like the Quez Watkins under 3 receptions. So I have the Philly side all figured out for myself. Now we need to find what is going on the Tampa Bay side. And once again, for runthesims.com/Mayo for that discount, what that just did is take the baseline projections of the game, the perceived pace, the perceived snap share, and then it ran a simulation of that game 10,000 times and then gave me that chart. Here, let's take a look at it again. You can see it's a bit wavy of how it comes in because we're dealing with such low numbers in this game. So you can see the median just comes out at number 2. So there's a lot of almost 20% of the time he goes over this number, but that's 1 in 5. That's 20%. I'll take my chances with Quez Watkins, the under 3 in this spot. So let's try to find one that really works out for us. I actually think Philly covers in this game. So that will somewhat impact what's going on. So we really need to scroll through and see what's what here. Too bad we don't have rushing yards, but let's say touchdowns. Leonard Fournette over under 1 touchdown. Seems pretty good. Gio Bernard is going to be back, but even when you look at the snap shares from last week, although Bernard had the touchdown, the receiving touchdown, he only played 7 snaps. So Leonard Fournette is touching the ball way more than everyone else. He's still getting involved in the receiving game. What do we have for his receiving number? 22.5? Yeah, it seems a bit high. What about receptions? 3.5. That seems like a lot. Let's run the Sims on that. 3.5 receptions for Leonard Fournette. And just see what that spits us out. And you have to think, too, if you're just playing the baseline for this game, right now, Tampa Bay is a 6.5-point favorite on the road on Thursday night. It's down from 7 as the opener. Now, if that goes to script, which, NFL games don't exactly go to script every single time, that Tampa Bay will be playing from ahead in this game, which means they will be running more often than not, although they are one of the teams that throw above expectation way more than anyone else, like the Bills, the Chiefs. There's a few other teams, but the Bucs are number 1 right now in that category. So you can see more passing attempts than maybe you would think, but in a game where they're winning and could potentially effectively run the ball on the ground, probably fewer targets for Leonard Fournette because they're just not necessary. Plus, you do have Gio Bernard back taking a little bit in that. So let's fill this out on runthesims.com. We'll go to receptions, 3.5 on Leonard Fournette. We'll put the juice back down to 0. And voila! The under will hit 70% of the time on the 3.5. So I think that looks pretty good to me. A 70-30 split. I mean, it's not going to win every single time, but I like the way that this is shaping up. So we're going to go Quez Watkins under 3 receptions for the Eagles side. On the Tampa side, Leonard Fournette under 3.5 receptions. And boom, 3 times your money on the $25 bet. You get win 75. Like I said, use code MMNNFL to take advantage of that match deposit and that free $25 they're giving away for Tom Brady. Hopefully he doesn't like pull a hamstring during practice or during warm-up, and then all of a sudden you can't use him anymore. He doesn't get the one pass. But that's a really bizarre situation to have happened in this situation. So those are the 2 that I like. Quez Watkins under 3 and Leonard Fournette under 3.5 receptions. The double under, never fun to root for unders, but unders tend to hit more of the time than overs do. Plus, all the injury hedges end up going your way as well. So Fournette and Quez Watkins both come up limp on the second play of the game. All of a sudden, guaranteed winner. Nothing wrong with that. Let's talk DraftKings for the week for Sunday Night Showdown. Now, this is what I actually think. I really like this prop tool on runthesims.com, but the single greatest tool that there is on runthesims.com is the DIY simulator. You can use the optimizer, but this is the one that I really like for single game simulations. It will run everything up to 10,000 times. So let's pick our slate. Right now, do I want afternoon only? Absolutely not. I want Captain Mode, DraftKings, Tampa Bay versus Philadelphia. So you can see all of the baseline projections that have been put in right now. The pace of the game, the rush rate, these are all customizable for what you want to do. And I don't want to give away the goods at runthesims.com, what the baseline actually puts out. What I want to do is input what I think is going to happen in this game. And you can see it's reflected right now. 28.8 projected points for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 22.6. That is the margin of 3.5. But I have Philly covering this game. I think it's a 3-point game. Tampa tends not to show up in these primetime games unless it's like the Super Bowl. Just when you go back and look at their performance over the past 2 years with Tom Brady as their quarterback in these spots, it hasn't been great for them. Even Dallas on opening night. I mean, they won that game, but they didn't cover. We go back to that Bears game that they lost outright, the Giants game from last year. They should have lost, but they most certainly did not cover that spot. New Orleans last year, they got absolutely whacked. So I think if Philadelphia covers, this is probably a lower scoring game than maybe we see. Maybe I'm dead wrong on that, but let's drop down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to 24 points, and we're going to put the Philadelphia Eagles at 21 points. So we'll call this a 3-point game. And that probably means there's probably a bit more rush. You know what? We'll keep everything in terms of pace. We'll up Philadelphia's a little bit and say 62 plays in the game. And we'll have the rush rate. 40% looks pretty good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I actually think the rush rate is going to be a little bit higher because of Jalen Hurts in this spot, where I think he's going to do a lot of running. So we're going to bump that up to 45, and the rushing TD ratio up to 45, where that's probably going to be a little bit down, and it is. We'll just call that an even 35 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, so I've had some of my own custom inputs put in this game right now. So now we need to think, how is this going to go? Well, 8% share of the rushes for Tom Brady? Nah, let's not do that. Let's bump that down to 5%. Is Ronald Jones really going to get 25? I don't think so. I think that those are going to go to Fournette. Bernard will bump up to 10%. We never see Keyshawn Vaughn, but one carry wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility unless he's deemed inactive before the game, and then this will be updated in terms of the baseline projection. So now what do we have? We have 89%. Let's chuck those on to Uncle Leo and bump him up to 68% of the rushing share. So that's the backfield, how I've customized the backfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The TD market share of rushing touchdowns, let's bump Leo up to 70%. Let's bump down Ronald Jones to 10% and see what that gives us down here. 101%. All right, let's just, we'll take Brady up to 14%. Maybe it's one of those games where he sneaks in 2 touchdowns. Who knows? Oh, no, I'm still above my number. All right, let's just keep him back down at 13% and see what that does. There we are. We're back down at 100%. I always like to make it 100%. So, okay, now let's talk about the passing game. We know that Godwin's a little bit banged up, and really it's been Mike Evans who continues just to pile up all of this yardage, not necessarily on the most targets, but his ADOT just tends to be a lot better. That's why his catch rate is a little bit down, but we've bumped him up in terms of the market share to kind of adjust for that. And the TD market share, which really does seem to be his when they get inside the red zone. That's who they tend to be throwing to in these matchups. I actually don't mind these at all, but let's just say it's more of, we just had an Antonio Brown game, and Antonio Brown tends to go boom or bust in these spots. So let's bump him down, say it's not an Antonio Brown game. We'll just bump his market share down to 10%. That gives us 9% to mess around with. We're going to take down Ronald Jones to 0% of the market share of catches, and we'll bump up Gio to 8, Leonard Fournette at 8, Giovanni Bernard at 9, Antonio Brown down to 10. That still gives us 9 to play around with. Let's just bump up Evans to 23. Let's bump up Godwin to 20%. Do we really think that Tyler Johnson's going to get 8% of the targets? Nah, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. So we'll bump him down to 5%. Braid at 13% seems about right. Maybe we need to bump up Antonio Brown a little bit more. We'll bump him back up to 12%, and then we'll go 25% and 23% for both Evans and Godwin. So that's how we're going to allocate everything. And you can mess around with the catch rate and the market shares of touchdowns if you want to as well. But this is the way that I'm going to go with it for right now. We could probably even bump up. You know what? I'm going to take away 25%. We're going to bump Mike Evans back down to 23%. Chris Godwin back down to 21%, and we're going to chuck that 4% onto O.J. Howard, because maybe that's where you want to attack the Eagles, is in the middle of the field. So that's how we've kind of done everything up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. We've adjusted their points down, their rushing TD rate down, and we've changed up the percentages, because I don't think that you want to say that Evans, Brown, and Godwin are the guys that are going to absolutely dominate in this game. We so rarely see those three guys all come through in the same spot. I think you're better off telling yourself a story, especially if you're only going to play I'm not going to play 150 lineups. If you're playing 150 lineups, the baseline is the best thing to do, because it's going to run together so many different combinations of, you're not going to have those three guys in a lineup anyway. You're going to have two of the three or one of the three along with the tight end, or maybe the Eagle side of the ball is the place that you want to go. So that's why if I'm going to try to optimize my results for fewer lineups, I really want to make a stance on certain players, so it gives me the best optimal lineups possible for the guys that I like the best when I input these numbers. So let's get to the Philadelphia side of the ball. Market share of rushing for Jalen Hurts, 30%. Yeah, I can dig that. And you know what? We're going to bump up his TD market share of rushing touchdowns, because I think that Miles Sanders at 50% and Jalen Hurts at 33% is wild. So let's just make Jalen Hurts a 50% chance of doing this, and bump down Miles Sanders to 30%, and we will bump up Kenneth Gainwell to 19% of the market share of touchdown. Okay, so we have Jalen Hurts at 30% of the rushing share, Miles Sanders at 46%, Kenneth Gainwell at 24%. We'll just play around with that a little bit. I don't want to make Hurts too good, because he's going to be in every lineup, which he probably should be anyway. But let's just bump down Miles Sanders a little bit to 40%, which means we're going to bump up Kenneth Gainwell to 30%. Seems easy enough. That's the way that we can go about that. Receiving share, 8 and 9. Yeah, let's make Sanders 11%, and let's make Gainwell 6%. So we're still at 100% now. Now we look at what is going on in the receiving game here. Devonta Smith is second in the league in air yards right now. Sorry, in unrealized air yards, because he's not getting connected with deep down the field. That probably changes in this game. So of the market share of receiving touchdowns that could be possible here, I'm going to bump him up to 35%, because I just think that's where it is likely to go. It's going to be him at 35%. I'm going to bump Zach Ertz up to 25% with no Dallas Goedert in this game. So Dallas Goedert still has market share filled in for him right now, but where he's set at 0, he won't affect any of the simulations. He has essentially just been taken out of the entire situation. So now we're at 123% when it comes down to where everything is allocated. So we can just take that away just to make the Sims run along. It didn't even really do anything for me right there. So Greg Ward 4% is actually probably pretty good. Let's just bump down Rager to 10 and see what happens with that. We still have 1 to give back. Just take away a 0.7% from Quez Watkins. So now we have 35% touchdown market share for Devonta Smith, 10 for Rager, 12 for Quez Watkins, 4.5 for Greg Ward, 25% for Zach Ertz. Is he probably going to be running? I doubt it's going to be 100% of the routes and snaps, but they so rarely ask Zach Ertz to block, and it's not like he runs downfield 500 yards. He's not going to get tired too quickly. It's like 8-yard routes for him. That's a good red zone presence that Jalen Hurts is going to run that he can throw to, but you do expect Jalen Hurts to call his own number a lot of the time as well. You can see all of the catch rates are kind of down for the Eagles receivers because the completion percentage for Jalen Hurts just isn't that high, but you want that high strike offense. And I think this is allocated pretty good. I'm actually going to bump up Devonta Smith just a little bit. Let's call him 26% of the target market share. And obviously that's not as good as it is on some other teams because the Eagles just don't pass the ball as much. Quez Watkins, 10%. Yeah, that checks out. I'm going to bump Arcega-Whiteside to 0 and Greg Ward to 4. So now that works. Let's see. We can just take that down to 0. And all right. So we did have some more allocated at the moment for Dallas Goedert. So we'll just take that away from him. We're going to bump up Zach Ertz to 17%. He might not be the only tight end running this entire game, but it's going to be pretty close. We'll bump Greg Ward back up to 7%. Now we have 4 more percent to play around with. We'll go Reagor, 20%, and Quez Watkins, 13%. We'll even see how the simulations end up working out with Quez Watkins when we look at his overall median projections and see how that works out for us. So now we have successfully changed up the winning of the score of this game, 24-21. You've seen the pace get uptick, the rushing rate get uptick, the rushing ratio uptick for the Eagles, and each individual player's allocated differently from what the baseline projections were. So let's save it. And then we're going to run the sims and see what this tells us right now. Hopefully it still matches up with the prize picks that I played earlier. So this gives us Jalen Hurts ends up in the most optimal lineup 67% of the time. Tom Brady ends up in the optimal lineup 61% of the time. Fournette, 59%, 49% for Devonta Smith, and 46% for Chris Godwin, which even though we decreased his number, that really didn't make that much of a difference in terms of what the optimals ended up telling us. So that's pretty revealing when we go and look at it. So now as captains, Brady is way lower because that's the potential ceiling on a lot of these guys. I mean, Brady has this weird ceiling because he can throw 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he doesn't have a chance of rushing for 100 yards and throwing for 300 yards like Jalen Hurts does. That makes him the overwhelming captain. So the best captains right now would be Hurts, Fournette, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, and after that, it would be Brady and Mike Evans up next when we look at it. So let's take a look at the projections for the game. I just want to see how Quez Watkins is doing here. Quez Watkins for 2.7 receptions on 4.5 targets. Excellent news. He's hitting the under on those. How about you, Fournette? 3.5 targets. That was his over-under for receptions. All right, and we moved him up in the receiving totals as well, so the median projections do not like him to go over that number, same as Quez Watkins. So, again, there's your prize picks play, the double under on both those guys, but let's just look at our custom lineups. So when we ran this 10,000 times, this is the lineup optimally that came out 16 times when we went through it. Devonta Smith is the captain, Leonard Fournette, Quez Watkins, Jalen Hurts, Zach Ertz, and Chris Godwin. So you have the correlation with Jalen Hurts still in it. You don't have any of the rushing game besides Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles, and then you just take 2 one-offs. So a 4-2 Philly Buccaneers stack. I'm sure that's going to be contrarian. The one issue is that is giving out all $50,000 of salary. And the reason that Quez Watkins pops up in the optimal lineup, because when we simulated this so many times, he's a really good price point on DraftKings, and when he hits his 95th percentile outcome, he has a really, really good game. So he's going to end up in an optimal if that happens. So that's what we're thinking about. Now, this is usually better constructed for people, once again, playing 150 lineups. So if you're playing single entry or 3 max, or just playing 5 or 10 lineups, whatever it might be, you might want to speak to one that's a bit more, that's pretty contrarian, but using all of your salary is not super contrarian. So these next 2 lineups, both with Devonta Smith as captain, as you're seeing, he's popping up optimally as a captain in a lot of the easiest builds you can make. I kind of like this one. It's Devonta Smith, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Hurts, Ertz, and Reagor. It's tough fading Brady on this slate, but you absolutely cannot not play everyone. This one leaves $800 on the table. I think that's the way that I want to go. I don't have the most faith in Zach Ertz or Jalen Reagor, but if that's a story that I'm telling myself about this game, this is the lineup that I would want to play. If Philly covers, loses by a field goal, and the scoring is a bit lower than we think that it could be, at least in terms of the over-under, that would be the best way to play this as a contrarian tournament play. Now, you can go input all your own own customizations. I just showed you how to do it. It was super simple. You can even, what's this right here? Oh, download CVS. Oh, easy game. Then you can just go upload and pick and choose the ones that you want to go upload in those. And if you just want your season-long stuff, what you think is going to happen, you can do this for every game on the main slate. Obviously, you can just go in and amend each of the games like I did. When I went to the inputs, you can just pick the slate, pick the games, and boom, you're off to the races when it comes to this. That's all at runthesims.com. You can use /Mayo to get yourself a discount and just make life easy on yourself, especially if you're really into customizing and really telling the story of each of the game. Or if you have a big lean on one player and you want to get him into optimal lineups, well, just boost up his numbers and see what happens and get him in there and then generate your own lineups. Runthesims.com/Mayo to get yourself that discount right now. And if you want that free money at prizepicks.com, use the code MMNNFL at first deposits for first-time customers only. And then you need to deposit $100, get your deposit match of $100. We're up to $200. You get the free money for the $25. So you play a $25 entry of Quez Watkins receptions, 3, and Leonard Fournette receptions, 3.5, and take the double under, win 3 times your money, and boom, you're good to go. Plus, it makes you eligible, because you have money on Prize Picks now, to play in the Mayo Media Props Contest. We run it every single week. You play 5 guys on Sunday. You pick the over, under, no Monday Night Football, people, and you just play one entry for $7.11. That amount qualifies it for the Mayo Media Network Prize Picks Props Contest, the season-long props contest. You win 10 times your money if you win. So $7.11 entry, not that much money. I mean, maybe it's a lot of money for someone. If you're watching the show, I doubt that it is. And so on Prize Picks, you win 10 times your money, you have $71. But if you go 5 for 5 because you played the $7.11 entry, that means you're qualified for our contest. You get a bonus $50 on top of that too. So it works out to be 17 times your money if you can go 5 for 5. I have not been going 5 for 5. I do have an 0 for 5 week. I don't have a 5 for 5 week yet, so hopefully I can rectify that this week and I can build my bankroll with this Thursday night contest. Once again, check out all the shows on Mayo Media Network, specifically Fantasy Football Picks and Bets. I'll be back on this feed Saturday afternoon with my injury report, DraftKings ownership, and the best plays of the week. So stay tuned for that. Smash the like on the way out. Thank you for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.